If you have an extra.
Yeah, I don't know if you printed it or not, but it's, yeah.
They had too many things I couldn't understand.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Um, roll call, everybody that's actually on the committee is here right now. We have one staffer that's coming in yet. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes as submitted?
I so moved.
Oh, Joanne, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Only got a question. Oh, okay,
On the minutes was not Donna Wallace there?
yes. I was here.
Yeah, and I don't see her name.
I miss you, Tom. You miss me.
If they added.
Yeah. Go ahead, go ahead and get everything. No, be willing to amend your motion to approve with that one change to add Donna?
Yes.
Okay, and Joanne, again, second that one, okay, now all in favor say aye. Opposed, hearing none, they are approved. Public comment, there is no one from the public here right now, so approval of the provider contracts. There are none. There are none, okay. Then we move on to the financial report, Brian.
Hey, good morning. I'll go over the financial report for June and July. Starting out looking at the billing report, for June, we ended up billing up $231,000. July, we billed out $218,000 so far. That gives us an average of $228,000 per month, and projected year-end billings $2,237,000. So doing a good job there. Moving on to state aid report. Our revenues from our grants for cars, our DHS program, we have billed out $831,000, and we've received back $692,000. We are running at about 96% so far. That kind of bumped up our payment schedule. I anticipate that kind of slack off now that we've kind of hit out of our thresholds in that area. Going down to the Sparks report, our DCF claims. We have submitted 761,000 through June, and we have received only 290,000. Again, DCF is running, pays a little differently, and their money should be coming. I anticipate a large payment coming in September to do a lot of catch up and to start the new state fiscal year, July, to that June, September, October, the payment coming into there. Income maintenance, another DHS program. We've filled out 145,000 and we've taken in 127, so we're running about 88,000 for 80%. There, going to the contract status report. This is for July, which entails mostly new payments. We're keeping a track on a couple of potential overruns on budget to family service and helping hands, and if that we get close, we'll get some addendums out when needed. Going to the vendor payments for the month of July, we had 228,000 in payments. So out payments to note, we have paid Political Data Solutions, that's CTM, our software service. Here, that's an annual maintenance of $21,780. We also had youth-based institutional fee to family services for $13,100. Inpatient charge to Trempealeau of $11,400. And Willow Creek, we had $8,400 for an inpatient placement. And again, on this report, the manager's credit cards are listed and they can be found under US Bank. So it's under there. They're providing the actual credit card statements. They are summarized there. Moving on to the monthly financial report to June. At June, of course, we're halfway through the year, 50% for our threshold. So we want to be revenues probably higher than 50 and expenses lower. We're looking at the admin side, 51.9% for revenues, expenditures of 55.9. Nothing really concerning there. Going down to economic support, our revenues are at 49.3%. Our expenses are at 43.2%. Again, we have been short-handed in that area. We did have a new hire come out in August, so we anticipate the monthly expenses kind of go back to where they fall in line, and so and revenues also. Children and families, they have revenues 53.4% and expenses 48.8%. So that is in line. And moving down to behavioral health, we are looking at revenues of 46.6 or 46% and expenses of 44.4%. And so far through June, our net expense to Winnebago has been 77,000. I can look at following the line. Going into the family communities. Again, revenue is a little behind there at 42.8 and expenses at 49.2. Not too funny, but keep an eye on that. Going to the bottom line, if we were to end at the end of June, we would have a positive balance of 471,000. Our goal would be 50%. Our revenues are a little behind at 46.8%, and our expenses are also under budget by 47.9%.
If anyone have any questions, Brian? And we're gonna move on to the report.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Good.
Department report, so update on a few positions. We hired Kim Selner to fill the vacant income maintenance position, which Brian had just indicated. Again, that hiring process was pretty slow. We had to do a couple rounds because we weren't finding the candidates that we were hoping for. And first round, we ended up making an offer and the individual didn't accept, so then we had to start over there. We currently have the transportation / fiscal position posted. That posting ends on Friday. I just sent a message up to Peggy to find out the status of that. I haven't, I don't know how many applications we've received for that position, but hoping for the best. And then also just want to note that this week we received resignation from Kelly Kopneski. She was our CCS director and mental health therapist for our agency. So that's hot off the press. We're just working through the details of figuring out how to best fill that vacancy going forward. On Tuesday, we held an all agency meeting. We appreciated the opportunity to connect as an agency and learn together. The areas of focus were on our 2 new policies related to billable time expectations and the case note entry protocol. So it was just a nice opportunity to learn from each other, get tips and tricks from each other, and how they can best meet the requirements of those new policies. 3 of our staff helped facilitate the meeting. Kudos to Shannon Hagerty, Jacob Kumper, and Jody Vanderbeck. They really did a nice job helping to facilitate the group discussion and bring the agency together on that. We have a drug presentation coming to our agency. Chad arranged for a member of the Sheriff's Department to present to our staff on current drugs and paraphernalia that we're seeing impacting our community. That presentation is going to be on the 6th of September at 9 o'clock. Lots of changes all the time in that world, so it's good just for our staff to stay up to date on what's happening in our community. Wanted to also notice that I also wanted to inform you that I received notice of the Fall WICSA conference. It's going to be in Stevens Point. If there's any interest in attending, please let me know. It's November 30th through December 1st, it's Thursday and Friday. I have some information here in writing if anybody is interested in that. Moving on to the 2024 Human Services Budget Review. So you should have received that yesterday, I think, Lynn. It went out via email. And then I think she passed around hard copies as well. This is just draft document, so it's where we're at as an agency. It's been submitted upstairs to Paul and Ed for review. So again, it's just kind of for information, but I wanted to review a few things in there just to keep you in the loop of what we have going on. This is a huge process. So I just want to point that out. It's a big budget. We acknowledge that. Just please be aware of the time and energy that Brian puts into this budget. It's quite an ordeal. So thank you, Brian, for your knowledge and experience with the process. Areas that I wanted to highlight, I'm going to go through a few things, but Brian's going to get a little bit more detailed. So the wraparound house, this is something this committee has been talking about for a long time, right? So we received approval from this committee and the finance committee, and we were set to move to the full board. But then we were encouraged to consider having it approved through the budget process instead. It was encouraged to go this route so that we can show that the project is financially supported through the human services budget along with the opioid funding. So you're going to see Brian will show us where that is in the budget. Income maintenance lead position. So you have a copy of a job description for the economic support lead and then also economic support frontline position. So right now we have 3 economic support workers, and of course they're helping community members with accessing food share, childcare assistance, badger care, things like that. We have been encouraged by the state to consider having an economic support lead position, which essentially would allow for additional support for income maintenance staff. We are not looking to add another position, but instead we're looking to make one of the current positions a lead rather than just a frontline worker. So if it were to make it through the budget, the thought is that we would work kind of backwards to seek approval from this committee and the executive committee to approve the job description and to fill the vacancy, or fill the position, excuse me. So just a couple things of what the income maintenance lead would do. They would continue to have their frontline duties of, the call center and handling walk-ins, things like that. But then there would be some supervision or lead responsibilities to address concerns related to fraud, staff development, problem resolution, and technical assistance. So those are just some things that are a little more intense and require a higher level of responsibility. We are the only county that does not have a direct supervisor who is a income maintenance worker. So Brian currently supervises income maintenance along with the rest of the fiscal staff, but he doesn't have the direct knowledge and experience doing income maintenance work. So we are the only county that doesn't have that level of supervision or a lead IM worker. So the state in a recent review has strongly recommended that our county consider having that additional support for economic support workers. So you will see that reflected in the budget. The fiscal impact of that change is $6,000 per year. We did do our due diligence there to consult with other counties regarding the job description and then comparables for the wage increase, which we landed on $1.75 more than the $1.75 per hour over the frontline workers. We did remove a few things from the budget to come a little bit closer in alignment with our target figure. A couple things that were removed. We were on schedule to replace one of our county cars. The mileage is still pretty low on the car. It's running really well, so we didn't think it was necessary to go that route.
That's a $32,000.
$32,000 is what that would have costed. We also removed 5 computers. We were set to replace 10, I think. And we bumped that down to 5. We were able to get quite a few IT upgrades during COVID with the additional ARPA money, so we should be sufficient with that. And then one other thing is training for our committee members. So I was hoping to be able to support 4 to attend the WICSA conference both spring and fall. And I think we adjusted that to its 4 attending 1 conference for next year. And then just one last budget related item that I wanted to talk about was the potential wage increase that's reflected in the budget. So Brian was directed to calculate a 2.5% increase. As an advocate for my staff, I'm sorry, what? 2.25. 2.25. As an advocate for my staff, I just want to encourage you to consider an increased percentage there. The cost of living continues to increase, and of course, that's directly impacting our staff. And I also just want to reflect again on the fact that we struggled significantly with resignations this year and recruitment, and I think certainly a part of that is directly linked to our wage comparables to neighboring counties. Lastly, under my report, I just wanted to touch on the basic needs grant. So I'm excited to report that on behalf of our agency, I applied for and was granted $30,000 from the Basic Needs Giving Partnership, which will support our work in areas of early education and early care, housing access, and mental health. So we plan to use that funding to continue to support infant mental health needs identified in our Birth to 3 program, and then also fill some of the gaps that we have identified with basic needs related to food, rent, and utilities. Questions for me?
Well, has a question.
Okay, Linda.
When you interview for a position, no matter where it is within the department, do you sit in on those
Yes.
interviews? Okay. And I just have another question on these economic support people. Were they under the financial manager before?
So history there, right? So for a long time, they were under the director. They had no direct supervision. They just fell under the director back in the Jack Shad, Bill Kelsey era. And I think, was it under Bob that it gets under Dana?
And then they want to deal with.
It got switched to Brian in the financial area.
Okay.
So we have had a lot of long tenure in that area. If you remember, Gary Schleiss and Kim, help me out, guys. Vandermont, had been here for years and years. Jody Zimmerman as well. So they were really functioning highly independently, but then with their retirements and newer staff, we've definitely found that a greater level of supervision was needed there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna toss it over to Brian to go a little bit more detail with that.
We sent out a copy of the budget. This is looking at, set it up so what we proposed, what went up to call for our first round. Again, the budget process, we put our budget together, submit it to Paul, the administrator, they look it over, hash it over. We'll probably have a meeting next week with them, to go over concerns or whatever they might have, make changes. And then it goes on to the finance committee and more discussion and through the whole process until June, November, when it's actually adopted. Report I put together shows our budget from this year, what was our budget from last year, and our estimated where we're going to be in 2023 at year end. And where we ended up in 22 and 21. When you look at those going across, kind of have a little history of where we have been and what we're doing. This year we are requesting $1,076,000 for the tax levy. Last year was $1,019,000. I look back in my records, I think our initial request was 1.4 with all the wage increases and that we had were put in place this year. Like Melissa said, we've been directed to use 2.25% as a wage increase. And the only other increase of health insurance went up 8% across the board. No changes for dental. Otherwise, everything on the benefit side is pretty much stayed the same. And we'll just go through all the things that we have taken in and out. The car, computer, and the lead position. We haven't done much to the payroll other than the lead position. We didn't add any positions or make any changes for staff to have increases. So everything's kind of where it's planned to fall there. The big item we talked about was wraparound health at $152,000. I did put that into behavioral health. So the cost for behavioral health was higher, 152. I believe I put that under prices. One of them. But anyway, to fund that, we are going to be receiving $70,000 in opioid funds, and the difference of $82,000 would be taken from our human services cash reserve. So the revenue for that is shown up in the admin section where those are placed under other revenues. If this was a detailed report, you could actually see that those numbers. So the wraparound house is kind of brought in at a low cost to the agency directly for next year's budget. Overall, everything else is kind of status quo. We are looking at growth in some of our departments or units. CCS, we're looking at a 10 client increase for next year, and probably another 25, 30 in CLTS, which is a large cost increase, but also increase in revenue. So
Both of those programs, CCS and CLTS, are our best supported programs. So if we're going to see increases in programming, we want it to be in those two service programs.
we get more expenses, but we also have more revenue coming in to offset. So
Questions for Brian? Yes,
It might be a question for both of you. The health insurance thing, I heard you say it's going up 8%. I know there's an issue with Centevo, so I know Scott's gone now. Is anything happening to maybe start looking? Is Ed heading this? Where are we at with it?
I haven't heard a whole lot about it. Certainly, the area of concern has been brought to Ed's attention. I think it was just thought that the idea of having that issue resolved by January is really unlikely. So I think you'll start the process of trying to explore remedying that issue, but it is unlikely to be resolved by January.
And Melissa, I'm gonna ask you a question. It came to me after you asked. The wraparound house. It's just they're vacant now, correct? We're keeping, the county's keeping the lawn cut, keeping it up so the neighbors don't get mad.
Yeah.
I know we were questioning the asbestos issue.
Still never got a response on that.
Okay. He's just not responding to you?
No, I have, it's my understanding that he sent the test in and I am thinking maybe he just hasn't received the results. So I am going with the assumption that it is asbestos. Several people have, quite a bit of experience with that and it's kind of a no-brainer to them. It is what it is. So the thought is that you, rather than removing it, which is super expensive, instead you paint it, is the resolution that makes it a safe condition. You paint over the asbestos.
So what is the timeline? What's our next step? Because it's just sitting there vacant, nothing's happening with it. Winter's right around the corner. You know, where are we at? And my second question to that is, if this is coming out of county money, I know, but it's not going to go out for a different type of bidding process because of that one. So I know there wasn't a lot of interest in anyone to get definitive numbers, but when it comes to shove, this would have to be bid set.
That's my understanding, is that we go through with getting it approved through the budget. If it passes, then we would have to go out for bid. Yes.
Excuse me, as Tim talked about the wraparound house, what has the village of Luxembourg said? You had said, I'm not sure which meeting in the past, to talk to the village council, what is their feelings about it?
Yep, so I had reached out to them to talk through the project, the village president, and he appreciated the conversation. It helped provide a little insight as to what we're thinking or proposing. I offered to attend a village meeting to provide more clarification on that. I was set to attend, called to clarify or to confirm, and he said there's really no need. Everything had kind of died down, there weren't questions. So that was where it had ended. And then last week, I think I had gotten another call saying, changed our mind, can you come? So it's on my calendar next month, I believe, is when I'll be attending to provide more information to the village.
Okay, thank you.
How is this funded after the opioid money runs out?
So we have the opioid money and then we have the human services risk reserve funding that we're planning to utilize to help with the cost of the remodeling and then ongoing costs that would occur. Just with home deterioration and things that happen over time. So it would be out of our risk reserve funding for human services. And then the individuals who would be residing there would be supported with human services programming. So it would have, that's why we're taking it the wraparound program. So some of the programs that we talk about every month, CCS, CLTS, parenting support, AODA treatment, that is the focus of supporting the individuals on a short-term basis in that home so that they can move into a greater level of functioning independently in the community.
They'll also be paying rent. So there'll be money coming in that will cover some of the costs.
It looks like you're gonna say.
I was just gonna say, and Dave, you're probably aware that the amount of money that goes when we have to put some of these folks into different housing situations, the amount of money is phenomenal. And if we could keep them in our area, that would obviously save on the budget a lot of money that would way offset.
So that's really what this is stemming from, right? Was this committee has been so involved with the process of relocating two of our consumers that had resided in Cholita Institute, two youth resided at Cholita Institute. Brown County had placed them, Harris moved here, so then it became a financial responsibility for our county. One that we could not sustain at $250,000 a month. So we worked diligently to get those two consumers back in the community. Not an easy feat by any means. I honestly can say that's one of the biggest accomplishments I've ever seen our agency make happen. The level of collaboration across units to make sure that they are well supported in the community was something really to be proud of. So when we look at that cost of $50,000 a month, we easily could have had them placed in the community much sooner than we did, had we had an opportunity for stable, safe housing for the family. So there's the Cholita incident or situation, but we have individuals that are going into institutional placements pretty consistently. And I'm not saying that having the wraparound house is going to eliminate all of those placements, but certainly I think we can make a dent on some of those placements that we're seeing consistently month after month.
Any other questions for? Next item is the next meeting. Typically it would be like the 21st, right, the third. Thursday, is the 21st okay for everybody? 8 o'clock in this room again? Would you repeat what you said? The 21st of September. 21st of September. Okay. Is there anything else to come before the committee? Now I'd like a motion to adjourn. Okay, Tim, is there a second? Tom? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 8:30.
Sure, you okay? You seem a little under the weather.
No.
That would be.
Yes, but.
I'll see you today.
Okay, now it's finally into the sale.